and welcome to Finextra. I'm Josie Waite and I'm here at EBAday 2018 in Munich, and joining me now is Celine Singleton from Ulster Bank, and we're discussing collaboration. Celine, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Josie. I'm delighted to be here.
How are you finding the event so far?
Great. I mean, I think the themes are very clear. Instant payments and AI seems to be the common themes coming up throughout today. But it's good to see that we're in a step in the right direction in terms of what's happening with other financial companies.
What changes are you seeing in customer behaviour, and how is Ulster Bank responding?
The change in the customer behaviour, if we look at the retail in terms of, as we know, instant payments is very much in the forefront, we said, in terms of, which is a big theme even on this EBAday this year. We're seeing customers that want frictionless payments. And what we see in Ireland, particularly with our customer bases, since the introduction of Apple and Samsung Pay last year, we've seen our contactless payments increase significantly. So now our contactless payments for our customers account for 30% of overall point of sale transactions. That's fairly massive in terms of what we want. So we get to the point, and out of that 30%, 10% is related to Apple or Samsung Pay. So we're at the point that it's too much effort for a customer to open their wallet, take out their card and tap. For a coffee, they just use their phones. And as things start evolving in terms of, if you just see the UK, contactless soared following the use of cards in your underground stations and your trains and your transport. So we see similar things happening in Ireland, which is quite interesting. We're the second highest usage of cash within Europe, second to Germany, compared to the UK, our neighbours right across the water, where 40% of transactions are now just done by cash and 53% by card. So we have a long way to follow the UK in terms of where they are. So what we see is it's pretty much the frictionless, fast, real-time payments is what we see changes in behaviours for our customers.
Great. So you mentioned TPPs. Aren't they a threat to traditional banks?
Well, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, people would have said yes, okay? However, as we look at in terms of where we are when we're moving closer to an open banking world with PSD2 coming to force in September 19, the reality is that banks need to collaborate more with fintechs. The banks have the data and the fintechs have the culture, and they have the ability to bring things to light a lot quicker than banks. So if you look at in terms of where traditionally a bank's operating model would have been focusing on tangible results, fintechs today would intangible, which looks, and we've heard quite a lot in this conference, would have been human capital in terms of the culture, the creativity, agile ways of work and bring things to life, and focusing on a component of a customer value in terms of the journey for a customer in terms of component, and how can you make that give more value to the customer versus a bank's traditionally would have worked towards the big picture in terms of P&L and a customer products versus adding value to the customers. So when we start evolving over time, we can see, there's several examples in terms of, we just see in terms of Ripple and Santander, what they have done. And recently, or rather 2 years ago, NatWest, Ulster Bank are part of the NatWest and RBS group, which I should have mentioned, was NatWest partnered up with Focalink 2 years ago to look at a corporate fraud invoicing system. And by bringing that to support our corporate clients, we've avoided 7 million in potential fraud over the last 2 years. So that's something that we probably couldn't have brought to light ourselves in terms of what we're doing. So yes, in theory, we would have deemed them as a threat, but there's very much opportunities in terms of working together, and also the banks have the additional advantage that there's a trust element with banks and customers versus new fintechs or new organisations setting up. It's harder to tap in.
So you've spoken a lot about new products and services available. How do you know which ones to back?
Really, I mean, I think the way we're evolving in Ulster Bank, we recognise that the current operating model that exists in banks will not allow us or will enable us to be relevant in the future and to actually have our sense of purpose. So by looking at that, we have invested a lot of time in terms of, like, we sponsor a startup community hub called Dogpatch in Dublin, And we have been working, the whole reason we've immersed ourselves in that community with teams to kind of understand and to learn from these guys in terms of a different way of thinking. I spoke earlier about the tangible versus intangible, in terms of we recognise now that we need to start looking at intangible results. So when you say, what would we back? We back what can really add value to our customers. So we're embarking in what we're calling a startup. It's a program, an internal program, which is an entrepreneurship program for our staff to get them thinking, their mindsets thinking differently, that they're doing the day-to-day work would have been predominantly traditionally product focused, to bring them out and immerse them in that community to really look at how can we add value. We also do a lot of work around hackathons, and we hosted hackathon last year, which was the biggest one in Ireland in terms of from all the participants we saw. So it's really about backing where we can add value, and also looking at a journey end to end for a customer and focusing on a customer's journey through their life, if you like, and how we can actually add value to it. So when we look at things like instant payments, payments is really a catalyst for change. And we see that in terms of all the new startups that came on board focused on payments, because it's an easy way in. And it's a way, well, that's an easy way to say, how can we make that journey easier? We can make it quick, we can make it seamless and frictionless and invisible payment. Okay, great. So let's look on further on that. Once you get an instant payment, you've got an open banking one, you can start offering, the demand will be more around instant credit. It'll be like the availability. So if we even take a use case by buying a car, the current process today would be, I'll go online, I'll see the car I like, go down to the garage, probably test drive it, and they'll first thing say to me, do you want finance? That would be great. They have to give a mound of paperwork. It can take a few days to approve the loan, and then that money has to be transferred to the garage. So it's probably about, on average, a week from the time I've seen the car till I go out. The way we're working at the moment, and the way the future and evolving in the future would be, I'll spot a car online, I'll click credit. My credit will be approved, I go down to the car, test drive it, and then the bank will make my payment from my credit, from my loan, straight into the garage, and I'll drive out my car in 2 hours. And when we go into ISO 2022 standards, you can have your insurance order, you can have your tax, and you can have your vehicle registration ownership changed in one thing. So in terms of, they're the things you need to back in terms of recognising where we can add value to our customers for the day-to-day banking.
That sounds great. Celine, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for watching.